What would make this an especially useful conversation for you today?
I think I would really want to know about how, first of all, how to build my personal statement. And also, the second question is, if it's okay, can I tell you a bit more about what I've been doing, working towards the application, and whether I'm on the right path to building up the profile?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start there. What are you doing to build your profile?
Okay, so at the start of the year, I was looking into immigration law and litigation. I was deciding between those two, and I thought I'll start with migration law as like my focus and like my field of interest because it was a bit more easy to work with in terms of like demonstrating your interest and like building up the profile. So I did a lot of volunteering and project did a lot of project initiation for the volunteering side of things and a lot of leadership stuff with don't know if you know the organization like Rotary International and Rotaract. Yeah, so I did a lot of leadership stuff in there, which I'm still doing currently, but I've toned that down a bit because I've launched more into the professional field. So I've got a couple of proper law firm jobs. So so I've got a law clerk role, which I'm doing right now, and also some legal research opportunities on the side. I also really enjoy doing research in general. So I'm doing a politics degree right now in university. And so I thought I'll do some research with my professors. So I've gotten in touch with some, and we're currently working on some research papers in the politics field. So I've kind of like branched out a little in terms of the profile because I felt like immigration law was a bit too restrictive and wasn't the field that I really wanted to launch into. And I am aiming pretty high. Like I do want to have a good go at the Ivy League schools. So I just don't know if I'm on the right path in terms of building a profile.
That all sounds great. I mean, honestly, what law schools want to see is that you have real exposure to what the practice of law is actually like, rather than media portrayals or going this path for lack of a better option. So what I'd be looking for you to do is distill that on your resume, summarize it on your resume, and perhaps get letters of recommendation from professors or supervisors in these roles that you've had. That's really all you need to do. Now, law schools know that your desired field may change over the course of your time in law school. So you don't have to necessarily say, I definitely want to do immigration law, or I definitely want to do something else or some other specific area. Ultimately, it isn't that important. I wouldn't place too much weight on the resume side of things. I would focus on taking one or two key experiences you've had, distilling them into anecdotes, and then talking about them in different parts of your application, like your personal statement, for example.
Oh, okay,
Let's
right.
shift gears and focus on that a little bit. Have you thought about a potential personal statement topic?
Um, I thought about building a profile of focusing around like resilience as a core value because I felt like that was something that I've always like genuinely tried to work on and to always develop myself and to I guess like I loved practicing leadership and I've tried to blend that into like the professional field and I felt like it I really kind of gained a lot from even just this year of really kind of devoting myself to law school applications. I've kind of grown a lot as a person and I felt like the resilience part links well with my childhood experience as well. So I felt like that could be a potential path to go down. But again, I'm not too sure if there is, because I know they're just looking for like personal qualities and traits outside of your professional, I guess, profile. But I'm not quite sure if that is kind of like the right direction to head into.
I mean, I'm going to be honest, it's a little bit vague, right? So let's see, okay, if you want to exhibit resilience or you want to exhibit leadership, if you want those qualities to come across in your personal statement, totally fine. Those are obviously great qualities to have. But what is a particular story or anecdote or experience you've had related to those qualities of resilience and leadership?
Right. Resilience would trace back to a lot of like childhood, because I didn't have a great childhood, so I could talk about that. Like, I'm not afraid to like just, I guess, expose anything, but I just don't. Again, like with regards to the details, I'm not quite sure how much exactly they're looking for, and I don't really want to. Again, like you said, I don't really want to be vague and kind of draw on the big profile. I'd rather kind of focus on like a specific experience. Um, but yeah, I'm not quite too sure like how to demonstrate everything, because it's like so many things I want to put into it to really, I guess, showcase what I am as a person. But at the same time, it's just all like there's so much to say.
I hear what you're saying. And I would suggest, if starting with the traits, which are rather vague in nature, of course, resilience, leadership, if that's not getting you anywhere in terms of a topic, but you keep coming back to childhood, I'm imagining there might be a couple of childhood experiences you've had that you feel are defining you as a person in some way. Or maybe they show how you've grown over time, and those experiences no longer define who you are.
Yeah, because that's also a big thing I was thinking about. Because I was thinking if I were to talk about childhood, primarily, it would come across as a bit negative. Um, I don't really know how else to put it, but at the time of being when I was still young, it did push me towards excellence, but at the same time, it was a lot of that negativity around the so-called motivation. And I wasn't too sure if that's the right way to put it in the personal statement, but it did evolve over time. But I was just contemplating whether that would be the right way to put it across in a personal statement. Because it's a lot easier for me to explain in person, but on paper, I think it might come across as a bit harsh.
It all depends on how you frame it. You could take the same topic, one person's explanation of it could be terrible and negative, another person's could be motivational and uplifting. It's all about how you spin it. And you can try to spin it in a positive way. You could try to frame it in a positive way. If ultimately the result isn't what you're looking for, I would take it in a different direction and talk about something perhaps more recent instead that relates a bit more to who you are today. I could imagine for a negative childhood experience, if you talk about how your perspective on that experience changed over time as you developed as a person, that could be one way to frame it. Or you could talk about how you overcame an obstacle of a negative experience and how you grew as a person as a result of that. And the lessons you learned from that experience helped you take your life in a more positive direction.
Right. Okay.
It all depends on how you frame it, though. I mean, anything, virtually anything, could make for a good personal statement topic. It's all about what you do with it. But negative experiences, they're tricky because you don't want them to walk away feeling disheartened.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a downer on this. You want them to you want them to like you, and you want them to walk away feeling good about you as a result of this. And you also don't want to run the risk of coming across it as looking for pity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also a big thing, because I was thinking about how to frame it. So there's no particular qualities or like checkboxes, I guess, you got to tick in a personal statement. There's no, like, I guess, criteria, if that, like, a harsh way to put it.
No, there really is no particular criteria. There's no absolute checkbox you must check. Like, you don't have to demonstrate resilience or leadership. Those are nice things. I think maybe they're a little bit cliche, so I wouldn't even I wouldn't come across as seeking to demonstrate those as like the point of the statement. All you want to show is that you're mature, that you are reasonable, that you're going to law school for well thought out reasons, not for lack of better option. And you do want to tell in some part of your application, why law school, why now? That has to come across in some way. And so, like I said, exposure to the field of law is something you want to show them. And you also want to show them that you have good reasons for going to law school.
Yeah. By good reason, do you mean, I guess my reason isn't really linked to, it's not really a special reason. I think a lot of people will resonate with this reason as well. But by good reason, do you mean like one that doesn't sound cliche, or does it have to be, I guess, unique in a sense? Or like, what do you, define as like a good reason, I guess?
I think you want to show that if you look over your professional and educational trajectory up to this point, that law school, you can make the argument that law school is a next natural step for you. So you mentioned immigration law, if you had experience in that area. If you mentioned research for a professor, you've had experience there. So you've had real exposure to what the practice of law is like, or what legal research could be like. Yeah. And then you know what it's like, you know what you want to do with it potentially going forward. You have a few ideas, or you know that your experiences up to this point mean that you would at the very least do well in law school.
Right, okay. Okay. Yeah, because I feel like building up for my application, I've kind of realized what I enjoy doing and what I didn't enjoy doing. So I thought at the start of the year, I should do everything. So like leadership, volunteering, jobs, research, everything. But then as I did more of the Rotaract and Rotary, I found that it wasn't working as well as I thought it would. And I felt like it was more worth it, or I also enjoyed it more to branch out and to focus more time on my law clerk job and to also devote more time into the politics research. Because like it also, in a sense, not only do I enjoy it more, it also yields more result, like stuff that you can actually put down. Because I assisted one of my, so I got an internship at a politician's office. It just happens that she's the founder of a political party in the state. So she often gets a few like politics interns in from university, and I often assist them with their research papers. So I do get mentioned in the research paper, and like someone who's helping me with the law school application, he also said that it's a good, I guess it's a good thing to put down in your resume. So I started doing more of that, and I realized that the more I do, I actually like it a lot as well, more than the volunteering stuff. So I'm not quite sure if it's okay to drop the volunteering and leadership a bit.
Certainly. I don't think you have to continue doing something that isn't meaningful for you. And I would never do an activity just for purposes of law school admissions. They honestly don't care that much. Most of it really is LSAT and GPA. But from what you've been telling me about your background, it sounds like you have taken your experiences in a positive direction. You've discovered something you really like, the law clerk job, the research work, the politics. You could talk about those. I would say maybe take one or two compelling memories from those experiences and start writing about those and see where that takes you. If you don't love the direction it's going, or you just want to keep all your options open, you could also consider writing about the childhood experience as well and see where that ultimately ends up. And maybe you can just explore a few of these on your application. One of them could be a personal statement. One of them could be a diversity statement, or one of them could be an answer to the question, is there anything else you would like to tell us? The personal statement should be the longest and should ultimately be like the real focus. But if there is some other color or detail you want to add to your application, those other statements could be a place for that.
Right, okay. And my GPA right now, I do really want to have a good shot at the Ivy League schools, and I've checked their, I guess, law school averages, but I'm not quite sure if that's a good benchmark to measure myself against.
Yeah, I mean, the medians are published. They are certainly relevant to considering where you are a viable candidate, where you've got a good shot. But as an international applicant, did you go to school in Australia?
Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes LSAC doesn't really know how to interpret GPAs or transcripts from outside the US. And so it's a big question mark as to how they'll evaluate it. I would contact them for details on that. But a lot of times what it means is that simply law schools do not consider international GPAs as much as they would for someone from the US, which means that your LSAT weighs more heavily and the other parts of the application weigh more heavily as well.
Yeah. Okay. Because LSAT's getting me quite stressed. But that said, by the time I'm planning to apply in 2020 November for early entry, and by that time I wouldn't have finished my course. So I finished my course. It's a 3-year course. I've kind of crammed it into 2.5. So I finished in June of 2021. The plan is if I happen to getting in the 2020 round, then I'll go 2021 in September. But I don't know if that's actually a possible option. Like, would they even take you if you haven't finished your course?
Yeah, I mean, at least in the US, where undergrad is 4 years, you typically, many students will apply in the fall of their final year to start law school the following year. So even though the grades are not complete, they're still more than half of an academic year unfinished. They evaluate you with everything up to that point. And I would imagine it would be the same for you.
Okay, cool. I feel like it's so hard as an international student. The bar is so high. Yeah.
It's a little bit tougher, I think, but ultimately what it really means for you, at least in your case, is that simply GPA won't be as impactful in the law school admissions process if they're not able to evaluate it as thoroughly because they don't know how to interpret the transcript.
Yeah. Just to have like, I guess, a solid goal to work towards, do you have like an LSAT benchmark that I should be working towards if I was to have like an okay chance?
Well, if you want the top law schools, if you want the top 14, then you ideally want an LSAT score of 170 or above.
Okay, because I was looking at 175 to have a good chance, but I'm not quite sure if that's even possible right now because I've been working on the LSAT for ages and it's just, yeah, after I joined your course, I feel like the scores boosted a lot, but I haven't taken a full like Khan Academy test to evaluate it. So.
Well, I would certainly recommend that you do at least a couple of timed exams in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. And because your timeline's a little bit longer, you could consider taking the LSAT in the spring or the summer as well to give yourself more time to study, more time to do full-length exams. And a 175 is a great goal, and that will certainly make you a very strong candidate. I set 170 as a more moderate goal. I think for top 14, their medians are typically in the high 160s, low 170s. And so you want 170 plus to have a good shot. 175 will give you a great shot.
Because I've been, I guess, supporting myself financially through all of this, all like this year. So I found that I'm a bit worried about law school costs because I definitely would need a scholarship to even attend. So I was wondering if that actually affects my chances at law school.
Well, as an international student, the only aid you'd be eligible for is merit aid. And so merit aid is basically when your numbers are above the medians of a given law school, they will give you discounts on tuition. They will give you scholarship money in order to attract you to their school. Because if you choose to go to their school and your LSAT score is above their median, then by taking you on, they will raise their median. Right. So that gives them incentive. So the stronger a candidate you are, the more scholarship money you're likely to get. Now, the top 5 schools, or you mentioned the Ivy League, and for law school, it's a little bit different. In the US, it's the top 14 that we think of as like the most elite schools. And the top 5 specifically are the elite of the elite. They're not really giving out any merit aid because they don't need to.
And is student loans an option in US?
In general, it is, but international students typically are not eligible for those loans.
Okay. I'll note that. Yeah, because cost has always been like a big thing for me because my parents don't want me to go overseas. So kind of just supporting myself. So that's why I'm a bit worried about law school costs and just staying in Melbourne because Melbourne Uni is also, Melbourne Uni Law School is already really like pretty good. So my parents are always like not supporting me on this. So there's like a lot of pressure on that aspect as well. But yeah, I guess not.
Well, one thing you could consider doing is going for a top tier school that is outside the top 14, even though it's a little bit less prestigious. With a top LSAT score, certainly 170 plus, you could get a full ride and not pay any tuition at all. But there are always trade-offs. The lower the prestige, the more scholarship money you're going to get.
Yeah. Okay, noted. Thank you for that.
What would you say is the biggest insight you got from our call today?
I think it was the information about the personal statement. So like being mature, reasonable, and explaining your reasons for why you're wanting to go to law school. Because I didn't know those were the things that I have to address or those are the things that I have to demonstrate. So that's always been a kind of like a big cloud for me. So thanks for clearing that up for me.
Of course, my pleasure. Well, keep in touch and I'll see you in class soon. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.